So the first item, approval of prior minutes, December 29th. Anyone will make a motion pending discussion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Approve.
Do we have a second? Any discussion?
No.
All in favor? All in favor of approving the minutes of December 29th? Vote.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. So this is, the next item is some paperwork, some cleaning up items for, that Rich had suggested. So Rich, do you want to make the motion? So we get it correct?
Yeah, it's just approving all the prior minutes. On the top of them, it says, I left it, and again, it was my mistake, subject to approval, and just subject to approval to approved. I make them, I guess I should make the motion.
Yeah.
So I make the motion to make that subject matter change on all the prior minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Okay, so Lauren, I'll send them off to you tomorrow.
Excellent. Thanks, Rich. Those FOI people can be pretty picky, so.
Yeah.
So old business. So item number 4, the RFP documents in the final draft. So I saw some emails going around. I took a look at it this afternoon. Does anyone, I don't know if you want to discuss it, Rich or Jason, you guys want to take a lead in talking about that, or what?
The summary, I had some problems with Google Drive today. I just drag and drop the summary. I'm on my work computer now, but on my personal laptop, I just drag and drop the summary in about 45 minutes before the meeting started. Sorry, I've been dead all day with work. If you could take a look at that and feed your comments back, or I don't know, Graham, do you just want to look at it and use it as a jumping off point to write what you're going to write anyway? Because you're the chair. I don't know how you want to do.
Yeah, and my change was just all the changes that Graham, when he sent out an email.
Yeah, the RFP is going to be the change. My comments, Graham's comments. That's all that is mine and Graham's together with the draft stuff on it.
And it's going to be
I had understood from the last meeting that the Board of Selectmen will probably modify the language in that RFP. So I don't think they were expecting us to.
Right. I'm not going to expend a ton of effort on it. I'm literally going to take Colliers out of it and make sure the stuff that Graham put in is in. And
yep.
My comments were not extensive. I have it. It's just on my other computer, which I'm having a fight with Google Drive. So that's why I'm on my work computer.
So the summary you mentioned, is that the summary of recommendations?
Yeah, I uploaded the recommendation.
Do you want it? Could you share your screen now, and maybe we can look at them now to see and have the discussion if that's what we're all.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, Graham, sorry, I don't mean to.
No,
yeah,
I think.
Lauren, can I share my screen? Can you? Okay, give me a minute.
If you go to the bottom of your screen, Jason, can you see it?
I thought you had to enable me.
Nope.
Enable sharing.
It's right on the middle there, on the bottom.
Interesting. I was going back over our committee charge, and quite honestly, it does look like we've actually, except for holding some of the town meetings and stuff like that, and stuff that we really couldn't do because of COVID.
Yeah.
It does look like we actually have accomplished maybe what we set out to, except for I'm hung up on recommend. So
Joe, if we take a look here, so executive summary, right? You can read it. I mean, it's your basic executive summary. We feel that we fulfilled the charge. Recommendations. We recommend that the town of Madison proceed with the request. And then 5, upon receipt of the proposal, the town of Madison should engage this committee for guidance in the evaluation of the proposals. And then I have a paragraph here, if we want to look at it.
Yeah, I think that.
I mean, is that's pretty consistent with how we feel, right?
I don't feel like we've made it, I feel we've done all the steps, but we haven't been able to make a recommendation, and we won't be able to make a recommendation if they don't come back to us with the RFP information.
Correct.
So I'm hung up on the word recommendation. So where we say, we feel we fulfilled the charge, I agree with that, except for the fact that we're not actually making a recommendation of what should be done with the property based upon information we've obtained and public information we've obtained.
Okay.
So
So
I
without-
wonder, I was just gonna say,
Go.
I wonder if the addition of the word preliminary before recommendation would suffice. Because if I look at the slides that
Right.
Graham drafted, he does have one slide that does talk about recommendations that we are not making. So I think we've narrowed down the list of possible recommendations, but to your point,
Can I just
Joe,
delete this
okay.
line? I'm not married to it, and if I put in, and if I take show, so if I move, if I get rid of that and move this paragraph up to the bottom here, does that work better for you, Joe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as it's seen as
Yeah.
preliminary recommendations, I think that makes the point. And guys, this is just my opinion. If you guys disagree with me, by all means, please do.
No,
No, I'm pretty sure that when I typed this, we unanimously believe that our job is not complete.
Yeah, but I didn't see that early when I spoke up.
Yeah. So I mean, we believe we believe the job's not complete, right? And the reason that we don't believe it's complete is because the models were, based on assumptions that need to be validated. All 100% true, right? And validated with the information that would be contained in the submitted proposals. I don't like desire.
We encourage.
Oh, we desire to advise. Yeah. My word choice here was kind of strange. I've had 2 long days.
yeah, I think it's important that we say we're not complete because, from a process standpoint, it just feels like we haven't completed the job. I mean, it just, we
Yeah,
jumped.
and I know that I fought against you is because I think that we can do this, but I understand what you mean from a process standpoint. If you're, I think we could go make one recommendation, right? That's what we're saying. We could make one single. This is what we singularly think what should happen. I understand. I agree.
No, I think it's pretty well constructed. Yeah.
I think that's a 25 multifamily. I think the 75 is a little.
Was it 25?
It was 25, yeah.
24.
Yeah,
No.
25, yeah. I think they'll lynch us if you try to get 75 in there.
Yeah, but I thought it was 24, not 25. It was an equal number.
The single families, it can do more though, can it?
No.
It could do like 5 or 6 single family or 25 up to 25 multifamily.
Hold on. I gotta look at this.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, 24. I think that's the limit based on the state health code. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about approximately 20?
Well, okay. Yeah, but I think that it was kind of, it's in the layout.
sorry, can I just interrupt for 1 second? Barbara just sent an email, which is on the phone, but needs to be unmuted.
I don't,
So
yeah.
I think Lauren, you probably need to promote her.
I allowed her to talk because she's on the phone. I can't promote her, but she should be able to speak now.
Can you hear us, Barbara?
You're on mute, Barbara.
Barbara, you might need to unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she'll.
Yeah, Jason, just quickly on that sentence too, you may want to say up to 24 multifamily dwellings, or was it 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 single family? I forget the numbers.
I'm gonna go and see if I could find that number.
Yeah, it was in the model that we did, so,
Yeah, actually, it's in the RFP. I think you got it now, 24, but I'll confirm it. Hold on. I'm going there now, so if I lose everybody, I'll dial back in.
It's like Barbara's.
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. $25.
About 20.
Well, 20 screws up the
25, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, that's, the model was based, the model format was 25, so probably should
Yeah.
stick with that.
Yeah, up to 25.
yeah, sorry.
Purpose in educational. I think that about sums it up, quite honestly.
Joe, what do you say, or what needs to change?
I was just thinking, I think that points 1 through 5 about sums it up. And unless, you know,
Those are our conclusions and recommendations.
yeah, I think you captured it well. Unless I don't know, do you want to mention anything about potential town retaining the property and using it? But I mean, that's obviously.
So that's all, so down here in methods and findings. Right?
Yeah.
It shows the matrix, it shows nothing behind it. It shows nothing behind where any of the numbers came from, so anything that could be proprietary or anything is not
Yeah,
public.
I have all that information, all the calculations on that. And there is a formula for each one of those.
Oh, I know,
Okay.
but we're not making that public.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Did we capture Barbara's, she made I think there was one line that she stated in the last meeting. Is it in here, which I thought was key, is that the only recommendation we can have today is Island Avenue School unless we have feedback from the RFP. It was something along those lines.
I would agree with that. So I would say if absent of actual data, we that last part that we just said, we really shouldn't make any recommendations absent of real data, except that, you know, I think if you play with the numbers anyway, selling it to a user is always
Right.
going to be the most. But that also assumes that that financials are the biggest driver. So you don't want to make that assumption either.
I think I know she's on the phone, but can she hear us? But it's along those lines. That statement there is I thought was key.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Do I not
we can't
capture it?
say
Is that
anything
not
about an
captured here?
imaginary proposal that's not there yet. So the only thing that isn't,
Maybe italicize that, Jason.
go to italicize this.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, it just needs to stand out.
okay.
Not that much. No, just.
I didn't think going into a ton of detail here and the method and the plans. I mean, I had full pages here. I had a ton of detail that I completely removed that went into backgrounds on decision matrices and the theory behind why the math works and all that. But I don't think that I need to prove why what I'm doing is right.
Now let them ask if they want. I agree.
So I don't know what we need for headers and footers, yada, yada, yada. That's that. But this italicized sentence, Joe, Rich, it embodies what we're saying, what we said, right? The models used for analysis of the various options are based on assumptions that something to be validated with information that would be contained within submitted proposals. I'm reading this for Barbara's benefit because she can't speak and I don't know if she's here. That would be contained within submitted proposals. We desire to advise the Board of Selectmen based upon validated models that have been revised to reflect the submitted proposals. And then in recommendations, recommendation 5 says, upon receipt of proposals, the town of Madison should engage this committee for guidance in the evaluation of the proposals.
Agreed. Do you think that was our plan to, once if we assumed we got the information back from the proposal, we were able to validate numbers and really come to a conclusion with hard numbers of what we think they should do, options 1 through 3, 4, 5. Was it ever our plan to go back to the public with solid choices and say, based upon financials and desired uses and capabilities of the property, what would be your top 3 choices? Did we ever intend to do that? So what I'm getting at is, would there be 2 steps or 3? RFP, get the data back, validate everything, and then do that third piece of the actual public comment to get the real feel back from what the town people would want.
See, that's what I thought our mission was, but
So I'm just wondering, so is there a
that was
step?
my understanding, but
Is there a
I
step
let the others speak.
I mean,
Because all this assumes, right, we're talking plugging numbers into a financial model. Well, that's great if we're all on the same page and it's a financial decision. But what if there's people in the town that if they don't care about the finances of it? They'd rather pay more in taxes and have it be a dog park, for example. So is there a sixth step recommendation that once data is validated, go back out for public comments, the wrong word. Public.
I mean, I think that sitting down with more, I think that you can sit down with more information and a group of people and talk to them. I don't think that your audience would be real huge. Maybe it would be. But I think that that's at the, I think that I don't think that our charge, the scope of our charge goes into that territory.
It actually did. For public, solicit feedback from public. And we always said we do 2 things, right? We did a brainstorming exercise.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first survey we did. Then we said we were going to narrow a survey down and put it out again with options that were actually feasible.
That's
I'm
what
unmuted. Am I unmuted?
Hey, you're unmuted.
What?
Oh,
Whoa.
oh my God, that was so frustrating.
Welcome. We're trying to speak
Thank
for you.
All right, and sorry, because I actually got stuck, so I didn't call in until 6:10 or so. Hello?
So,
Yeah, we're there. We got a late start anyway, so you didn't miss much.
Okay, good. Okay, so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going.
No, Barbara, I had just posed the question that, so we got to the point we recommend they put out an RFP and they come back to this group with the data so we can validate that in our model. But then I said, Is it another step that did we ever plan to go back out to the public and ask their opinion on a smaller, feasible list of options?
Prior to the RFP? I know we discussed some.
After we have
okay.
real information and we actually know what's technically feasible and economically practical.
Yeah, that possibility was discussed. I guess
Yeah.
it depends on if we only get one good option, then that'll be moot. But that's what the Academy School did. They went through that process after the RFP. Then they did the the statistically, independent poll.
Yeah,
They did the statistically significant survey, and
Right.
they put out they did the academy charge had like 7 or 8 different things that they wanted them to do. It was very specific. It wasn't as open-ended as this one appeared, and that was part of the academy charge.
I think our first survey was in fact a brainstorming session. But then if I look at sort of, again, the committee charge is the whole public workshops input session.
I thought that Joe, I agree with you. We talked about that at first, but I thought that we had scrapped that around the time because we did the survey, and then you threw together the spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet narrowed down the 4 distinct options based on,
Oh, sure. But again, that looks at it from a financial point of view. And that is my opinion. I would make a decision based on finances. But that doesn't mean the rest of the town agrees that it's a financial decision.
So we all weighed in on that, on how important that was.
Again, we did, but we never went back out to the town people. We never went out to the rest of the public to see what they thought. We all agreed, I'm sure. But what about the rest of the town?
Graham, if I could make a suggestion here, I hate to see the committee getting bogged down on this procedural question. I think it's very valid to ask the selectmen on Tuesday about what the process should be once the proposals have been received. I could see a possibility of holding a public information session to review with the public all the proposals that have been received. If we've only got 1 or 2 proposals, that may not be necessary. At a later point in the process, there certainly needs to be a public hearing once the selectmen pick a single option. So at this point tonight, I would suggest that this committee bring the question to the selectmen on Tuesday. What will be the procedure once the proposals are back in hand? And let the selectmen give you your answer. I can't speak for all 5 selectmen, so I'm trying to be a little careful here tonight. But I don't think we can tonight answer the question of what the selectmen want in terms of the process after the proposals have been received.
Yeah, in the schedule that was provided, the new schedule, there's 2 public outreach sessions listed, in April, May. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So right now, I don't know if I missed it when you first started. Right now for next week, our recommendation, as I recalled it from last week, we had discussed what our charge was, and we had discussed that for now, based on the information we have, our recommendation as a committee is to sell it to OLM if they're interested in purchasing, because that's the only kind of option before us right now, but that we recommend putting it out to for RFP to see if there are other options other than the school. Is that how we're going forward next week?
I believe so, unless people want to. I mean, I think that's the desire of the selectmen to look at more than one option in the RFP.
Yeah, of course. But right now, I mean, we talked last week about the fact that, yes, we know that we're recommending that it go out to RFP. After that process is completed, that we would request that we be brought back in, because if there are other options following an RFP, if there's nothing that pans out from that, then okay, our recommendation is still what it is now, that this is the option that we have, the school. And if there is something that comes back after us, I thought we were going to request that, we'd be brought back in the process at that point to potentially amend our recommendation, because right now our recommendation is this, since that's the only thing we have information about. Is that correct?
That wasn't my understanding, but
I think so. And point 5 kind of captures that. It says, upon receipt of the proposal, the town of Madison should engage this committee for guidance in the evaluation of the proposals. And then we could go back again and revalidate our assumptions correct.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So Jason, that's not your understanding of what we discussed then last week?
Well, nowhere in this does it say our recommendation is to, we don't explicitly say that our recommendation is to sell it to OLM. But.
And is there a reason why that's not in there? Because we did, I think I made a motion last time and
I said explicitly, because I don't, that's what we all think, but that wasn't our official recommendation. We can't make an official recommendation because we don't have all the information to validate our process.
well, that's not how we left it last week. If we're going to amend that before we go to the Board of Selectmen, then that's fine. But the way we left it last week was I think I made a motion and we were in agreement that, you know, the recommendation now, especially since it's our understanding that time is of the essence. I know that OLM has the option to renew, but, you know, it's not a guarantee that they will for another year. So they said to us when we met with them, whatever it was, a month ago, that their timeline is, I believe it was March, if I'm not mistaken. And then they are looking at other properties for purchase because they you know, need to be able to move forward. So at the end of the last meeting, and you guys tell me if you don't recollect it the same way I do, but I specifically, I think, said, yes, we are making a recommendation that it go out for RFP, but pursuant to our charge, based on the information we have now, our recommendation would be to engage OLM in a possible sale, and that you know, after the RFP comes back, we would request that we be brought back in that process to see if the recommendation, you know, requires reevaluation or amending. Is that not how it went last time? Guys, Graham, Rich?
Yeah, I agree. And I was just trying to record what you just stated because that's the statement I'd like to see in this recommendation.
Well,
Right.
Sorry, Barbara. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I mean, I can make the motion again.
Well, I mean, can someone type fast? I mean,
So Barbara, what you're saying is absent of getting the.
No, I'm going to use the words that are in the minutes.
We recommend OLM.
I'm going to use the words that are in the minutes. The only viable option available to the town of Madison will be a sale to OLM unless the RFP or other groups come forward with a good plan.
hey, you passed the test. Someone reads to me in the minutes.
Unless the RFP yields additional information that would potentially amend that recommendation. I mean, you know, it depends on what the RFP brings back. It could bring back nothing. It could bring back, you know, something that may be viable. So it may amend it, but it may not. At that point, we're requesting that we be, you know, kind of brought back into the process to evaluate our recommendation if need be.
To that point, I don't want to be stuck in a liability mode if for any reason OLM goes away and we're stuck with an empty school.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my fear right now. I know maybe the rest of, and maybe a good option will come in on RFP, but if it doesn't, and we had an option where the town could significantly benefit, and we lost it because, you know, it's taking a year instead of the 6 months, and nobody can pull a trigger and make a recommendation that would be a benefit. You know, it's a concern.
Barbara, I think
I
that
agree with you. I'm adding
I
more.
agree with you 100%. It's a bird in hand.
Yeah.
You're never going to
Yeah.
fetch more money than you're going to fetch from a user.
And that's the
Correct.
message I think we need to send to the Board of Selectmen, that that's our recommendation, you know, and this is our position today.
Yeah, Jason, I wouldn't say only viable option. I'd say the most financially practical option.
And least risk.
The most financially practical
Because
option.
we know too how many schools sit vacant forever. I mean, we know in this town, and that, you know, just become a liability. They're not exactly a hot market commodity. And, you know, we have OLM has given us, what did they say? the leases were, Al? I think you said, I mean, it's close to $1 million in rent for nothing in 2 years. Like, I don't know that we want to keep pushing it and have them say, you know what, the heck with this. We're going to go find something else. You know, we're being like, you know, rolled over the coals or whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want my name on that one.
And then, yeah, then you wind up also with no responses to the RFP, and now you're sitting on the property. Like, that's worst
Right.
case.
Right.
Yes, exactly right. Which is why, you know, even when we talked about it last month, I was like, can we get this done? And our committee was willing to, obviously, you know, the draft RMP and get it done in December and try and expedite this process. And, you know, I know we did do that. And that,
Everybody like
You
the
know.
word immediately available to describe the option?
I'd say the immediately available option also
Right here.
likely presents the best financial return.
I'm just the immediately available.
Right.
option. Available.
for least risk and
Yeah.
best financial return.
Yeah, it is least risk too, isn't it?
Yeah, it was in our evaluation. So for least risk and best financial return for the town.
So I'm not going to
Maybe
agree. with putting
just
it.
clean it up. I mean, is it okay to just say a recommendation is to sell the property to the current occupant as a user, which will gain the most financial benefit and present the lowest risk to the
So we
town?
don't know that it's the most financial benefit because we
Well,
don't have numbers.
based on our evaluation now and what information we have now, it is. There's
And-
nothing else on the table, which is why I said, for now, you know, I moved to say that this is our recommendation based on these factors, but with the caveat that if the RFP comes back and there's anything in there that might amend our recommendation, then we will reconvene at that point.
It gives us an out. And it's always
There's
going to
nothing else on the table. How could you not say it's the best financial?
So I think
There's
there is
nothing
there is a question on the line that I think might also help dictate some of this wording. So on the line, we have Justin Murphy. Has OLM Prep made an actual proposal to purchase, price, terms, etc.? If you can't recommend residential without actual proposals, how can you recommend OLM Prep without an actual proposal? And I think that's a good question. If we don't know their terms, I'm not sure if, I know they've made a request to be allowed to purchase the
We
property.
need the RFP so we can see what their actual proposal is.
So I don't know about whether putting in the best financial option makes sense, because I don't think we know the financials. I
They
do
don't.
think the comment about the least risk right now makes sense because OLM has indicated interest in purchasing the property, but I don't think we understand what the financial outcome would be. So perhaps it's premature to say it's the best financial option. It is the most immediately available with the lowest risk, both from having an interested party and going with the public opinion comments that we had previously solicited.
I think it's also okay to say likely the best financial option, because again, it's a user. Anyone else that buys that property is going to have to demolish the building. That's going to be $1 million, and that's going to come off the purchase price of the property. The user is
Correct.
always going to fetch the most amount of money.
And honestly, they did. I asked this question when they made their presentation because I wanted to have it very clearly enunciated on the record. I asked them if they were going to purchase it as a for-profit or purchase it as a not-for-profit with a certain term of pilot payments, you know, in lieu of. And they said, well, whoever their spokesperson was said, no, they would purchase it as a for-profit, which means in perpetuity, we get the tax benefit from it.
Yeah, they did not throw out a number, but they were very clear that they want to purchase it and would be.
I'm not arguing with
Right.
anything that anybody said or any reason that anybody said anything that they said. I don't think that we should be putting in any opinion about the finances without knowing what the numbers are.
That's exactly what I was suggesting,
Yeah,
Jason.
okay.
I
Worded
would
it
agree
well.
with you.
Which I understand. I mean, because obviously the town and whoever their attorneys are going to have to negotiate that real estate deal, or their brokers or whatever. So I understand that position. I don't think we need to comment necessarily on it to make the recommendation. I mean, I think we suspect it, obviously, but, you know, it remains to be seen what comes back in RFP.
That makes sense, because then you also say, repurposing for a private educational institution, the next line down, so that's fine. So that would be included in the RFP.
Yeah.
Taking out what the fair market value would be to them, or they may be willing to offer, it comes out of that RFP as well, so.
Yeah, and it lets them respond to the RFP. It lets school respond to the RFP. That gives us, you know, any education, that gives us any educational institution that wants to come in and, you know, put forth a proposal. That lets any kind of, and that includes, you know, nonprofits and all that too. And that includes single and multifamily. Commercial was very low, so we didn't include commercial, right? Public use was very low, so we didn't include it in public use. So it's, you know, these are the options that came up top 4 in our process. We can't, our method to evaluate specific options is not complete, so we can't say anything about the finances. What we can say is we can say that, you know, OLM is an immediate thing, and it also is the lowest risk because they're already in there.
Maybe just to close out point 4, you say immediately available with the lowest risk option available, 10,000.
Right. I mean, obviously,
sell the property to a user such as a private school. So they're not even specifically recommending OLM.
Yeah, I just threw the language of the minutes in text in front of everybody.
Country school, I think, has some interest as well, right?
Yeah.
Well, country school, though, is a not-for-profit, right?
I don't know.
So we wouldn't get, the town wouldn't get, I think the country school, the one they have now is a not-for-profit, it's tax-free.
Yeah.
So
we're
the
not,
town
we're not,
wouldn't recognize the tax benefit.
so we could analyze, I mean, Joe, I don't know if we ran, I mean, obviously there's no tax benefit. It's not.
Right.
But you could always offset taxes with pilot payments. I mean,
Right.
purchase price, so.
Right, and they may be willing to pay more upfront because they don't have to amortize time.
Exactly.
How do we know that the country school is interested? I know that was mentioned in another meeting before, but I just don't know how we got that information. I don't remember that. How do we know?
I had some very preliminary discussions and they expressed they would be interested, and I believe they've spoken to the selectmen also.
Yes, they did come in last year and they spoke to the first select woman and they presented their interest.
Right.
Okay.
They want to make sure they're not being cut out of the deal, so to speak.
I see. Okay.
But to Barbara's point, the clock's ticking, so I think it is prudent to make that recommendation on point 4.
Okay.
Yes. So I don't know if for purposes of order and just to make it official, I'm going to make a motion that we recommend, as our committee, our recommendation at this point is the OLM as the possible purchaser, as the only interested purchaser at this point, and you know, based on our evaluations of the least risk, obviously the financial is still a variable, and that we request that the Board of Selectmen, after the RFP process, reconvene with us to see if anything received in RFP would amend our recommendation.
Well, we did just say that country school might be interested as well, so can we specifically say OLM or can we just say school?
I would say, personally, I would say OLM because country school didn't come forward and country school didn't state that they would buy it as a for-profit. So I'm not comfortable personally saying.
OLM would be willing to, I mean, the country school would be willing to come forward and make the same presentation. So I don't think we can list,
Okay.
we can't hear OLM and not listen to country day school.
Well, anybody could have asked. we're a committee that's been convened for a year. I know that OLM made the request. I suppose Country School could have too, so that we could have, more.
I offered it to them and the committee did not, I think there was a consensus, they didn't want to talk to them.
No, I think the conversation was we didn't want to personally invite, but in the case of OLM, they came as part of public comment. So
Yes.
anyone is welcome to participate as part of public comment, but if we specifically invite some organizations and not others, that gets dicey. So we didn't want to be the ones reaching out.
Correct.
Correct.
But there was nothing stopping them from coming as part of public comment.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think it's good to
I
say.
mean, I'm not comfortable saying necessarily Country School because I don't know anything about that. I mean, we got information from the current tenant, but I don't know anything about the Country School and if they're serious and if they are going to buy it as a for-profit. So I'm not comfortable recommending that.
Neither am I.
Well, why don't you say public school? I mean,
Good.
Well, I think, is OLM considered a public school?
No, I
Sorry, private school.
Can't use it for.
Yeah.
Private school. Why not just say private school then?
I mean, so I don't know. Do we not have a second on my motion? Because my motion was OLM just because I think we're playing with fire a little bit here. And OLM has been the only one who's come forward, indicated interest based on our public evaluations, on our risk assessments. What we came back with on our committee is it's the lowest risk. Based on the information we have, it's the suspected best financial revenue for the town, and it's what the people wanted in the evaluation. And they specifically said, the townspeople specifically said, lease or sell to OLM. They didn't say to another school or open a Madison school. What came back was that. Now, I know, we're going to do another one after, but based on the information we have in front of us, the real information without speculation, my motion is as it stands. And, if everybody's not on board with it, obviously, we don't have a second and we don't vote it.
Barbara, for whatever reason, I'm on board fully with what you're saying, because the key words, what you're saying is what we know today. And what we know today is we were presented by LLM.
Right.
And so I'm concerned, I don't want to be stuck in any liable situation where we're waiting and yet we lose an opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm willing to second the motion.
Okay.
Okay, so open for discussion?
If it was my property, I would have already sold it to OLM. However, I'm torn on recommending one specific buyer. Granted, they occupy the property now. It's one specific buyer. If there's similar buyers in the town that also want the property, I mean, why?
Well, the only thing I would say to that, Joe, is as part of my motion, I did leave in there that we'll reevaluate after RFP. So if Country School wants to come forward then and ask to speak with us as well and put something in and we can, then consider it, then at that point we reevaluate, which is already kind of assumed in my motion. But right now, that's all hypothetical. And what's not hypothetical is OLM and their interest and their representations about what they would do.
And I agree.
Okay, I follow you.
I got to go with bird in the hand and what we know today.
I agree, but what I want to make sure is
I do
the
not,
town fetches the most amount of money for the property.
I do not agree with putting in, with making a singular decision or making a singular statement like that. We don't have real numbers from OLM. We don't have real numbers for anything. I could have come by the committee and said that I want to buy it for a private school that I want to send, that I want to put in there, and I want to pay, and that's it. And I could have given you the same presentation, right?
You could have, but you didn't, and neither did anybody else.
I hear what you're saying. I get you. And
So
like
I understand your position, but right now this is the information we have.
Like Joe, if it was an individual sale, I believe that I probably would have already sold my property to OLM. But because we don't have the solid numbers, I don't think that making a singular recommendation like that in any way, shape, or form is appropriate.
Well, can we combine, because now, can we combine the language? Because my key concern is, and I say this from experience, I just don't want to get wrapped around any liability if something happens and you lose an opportunity.
Well, I think, Rich, if I can interject, I believe the town.
I think that
the
is a
selectmen-
concern.
I believe the selectmen are negotiating the lease right now, the renewal for the lease right now. So I don't think that's an urgent risk we're looking at.
Okay.
We didn't know that.
I don't have that information. You know, we maybe you, Graham, are getting all this information outside of the committee, like about country school and renegotiations. I don't have that information. I don't know if there's, you know, some communication to you that we haven't heard. I don't know what that situation is, if they are going to renew. I know that they said that they were looking at properties to buy, and that was last month. And
I believe it's on the
you
agenda.
know, it's a concern.
It's on the Board of Selectmen's agenda for the 12th for discussion.
Okay, great. So that doesn't necessarily mean, though, that they are going to say, we're going to renew for next September. We don't know how that's going to play out. I mean, I understand the hesitancy potentially of saying, let's not put OLM, let's just say a school. But this is our recommendation. Nobody's bound by it. This was our charge. Get the information. The information that we have now yields this recommendation, not hypothetical recommendations that may come in later, but leave the opportunity open for us to come back after RFP and see who really is interested. And if that changes the recommendation, which today is based on what we know. So we had my motion. We had a second. Are we going to have a vote on it, Graham?
Any further discussion?
I'd like to jump in here, and I've strictly avoided getting involved in the committee's deliberations. I want to make sure that the motion that Barbara has made is in sync with the language that I'm looking at number 4 here. My fear is that somebody might read this and take it out of context.
Well,
And I
number four would be changed to specifically call out Our Lady of Mercy.
Okay, because I think it needs a qualifier.
If Barbara's recommendation is approved.
As Barbara has suggested, the qualifying language needs to be something like with the information currently available. I'm afraid otherwise that number 4 could be taken out of context. So I don't want to suggest what I'm not trying to change Barbara's motion. I just want her motion to be reflected in the language here.
Available to the committee.
Available. The committee's present.
Thank you. Barbara, you're on the phone. What we're seeing is typing.
Okay, yeah, I assumed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna zoom this out.
So we're gonna go into negotiation. We're gonna recommend that the town go into negotiations with a customer while putting out an RFP for other proposals for the property that we're negotiating the sale price on.
I think what I'm hoping is the Board of Selectmen.
Because I just read what I typed. And leaving 4 and 5 in there and asking for the RFPs is doing that. That's our recommendation.
Yeah, Jason, what I'm hoping is we're making a statement, and I'm hoping the Board of Selectmen returns with action items or comments.
This is what we want to see for 4?
I mean, I personally don't, just to interject myself, I mean, we'll vote in a second, but I don't think it does us any good listing one particular sale. I'd keep it generic personally.
So
But
this
that's-
is the,
Great. It's generic.
I think it's just better leaving it as a school. I don't see where this, this helps us get it. the best.
well, we're doing this so we can vote specifically on the
I
wording.
understood. I'm just interjecting. That's
Right.
going to be my vote. I'm just,
I'll put the most readily available private school instead of a OLM.
You could always put a little asterisk in there just saying that OLM is explicitly expressed interest.
Yeah, you could say like currently available private school with an asterisk. And that would soften it up a bit.
For the current tenant.
Current tenant or, yes.
Yeah, current tenant. I'm still of the mind, I'm very hesitant to recommend a specific buyer, but with the caveat that if it was my property, it would have already been sold to OLM for a bird in hand. So
I'm not really sure what everybody's hesitation is with recommending a specific buyer when that's the only buyer who's come out and said interest. I mean, we could say we'd love it if the country school did, but they haven't come and represented that they have a specific interest in purchase. We could say, we'd love to have, this guy come and pay us 10 million because he loves the trees on the property. And we would recommend that, except that's not in front of us. The only thing in front of us is this person. This
but they
entity.
haven't said what they're going to pay. I mean, I asked that specific question. They could try to get it for $1. We're assuming they're going to pay $2.5 million.
You need
But
the RFP.
that's just a guess.
And
I don't think anyone's going to pay $2.5 million.
Well, I mean,
So
that's
I don't
the
know where
knowledge
that assumption's coming from, but.
The financial model is predicated on that $2.5 million.
So you have to do the RFP to find out.
Right,
fair
without a
market
school and
value.
abatement.
Right.
You need fair market value, and that has to shake out in the RFP or listing the property. And 2 is the town needs to do its diligence. The difference is this is not my property or the committee's property or the selectman's property. It's a property that's owned by the public and all the taxpayers, and the town owes the people of the town due diligence. Rather than, even though we can make a good gut feel what the best purchaser might be, the town owes the people due diligence to figure out, is it a fair market purchase?
Right. The only,
Exactly. That's why we have the whole RFP process in play, which we've recommended as part
So
of that.
I would be okay saying absent of an RFP, absent of doing an RFP, sell to OLM. But I don't think that's not what we're saying.
No, I mean, this dialogue is working the language in a positive direction. So let's take a look at it. This is groupthink now.
You just have to read it to me because I'm on the phone.
Right. Okay. Group mind meld.
So what we had in there before is that the most immediately available of the options considered with the lowest risk available to the town of Madison would be sale of the property to I think I said,
Private school.
private school. Yeah.
Yes.
Private school. To a user.
With
such
the
as-
asterisk that the current tenant,
I would not put.
As
the word
expressed in-
OLM.
I don't think that adds anything.
I would not lead to OLM. anymore.
Okay.
I'm not going to vote for anything that includes OLM. in it.
Right. But I think
well, okay.
what did Joe just say is absent of an RFP should be in the beginning.
Well, No, I
mean,
wouldn't.
if we
because-
have the most immediately available option. So this is conclusions and recommendations, right? So should I write, we conclude that the most immediately available the option considered with the lowest risk would be the sale of the property to a user such as a private school?
I like that language. If you want to asterisk, I'm fine with that. If not, no big deal. 'Cause
Yeah.
I would like to have the asterisk to say the information we have now is that the current tenant has expressed interest, whatever.
I mean, guys, I'll tell you a quick story why this is important. We were selling a manufacturing plant to a company that was not only wanted the plant, but a couple products. So licenses for products. We argued and argued over $30 million. This was a $500 million deal. They walked away because we took too long. 5 years later, we wound up selling that property for $8 million.
Yeah, that's my concern here.
That is a legitimate concern.
Yep. And we may think this property is worth $2 million. The RFPs will play that out, and maybe it's appraised at $2 million. But after abatements and demolition and getting rid of the school and all the build out costs, let's see really what
And guess what?
it would be worth. And then we're going to get stuck with it because somebody has to do that and doesn't want to be bothered.
And then if OLM does walk away because we take too long, then all of a sudden,
they're a school, so they do have the right to renew for a year if I were representing them, I would honestly told them, which is, where I'm coming from. A long time ago, you need to find a different space. You spent almost $1 million and you can't, on rent, which whether that was market value or not is another conversation, but with nothing to show for it. Basically, on the understanding that this is your town, it brings jobs here, it brings people here. There's apparently a wait list, as the guy said last month. So, this is a really good option, but at some point, let's cut our losses and let's go, spend this money and buy something as a not-for-profit, which they could and are entitled to do and not have tax consequences going forward, and just pick up a piece of land and make your school. That works for you. I'm concerned that we're going to end up with a property like all of these other abandoned school properties that sit there and becomes a town cost to maintain because no one else wants it.
it's important to make that point about timing. And I don't know if it's specifically you mentioned, if you asterisk and you say that current tenant has expressed interest, but that point on timing is important. I mean, and
Well,
then
the timeline laid out in the RFP by the Board of Selectmen is in February, March, they'll get the RFP back. So if they're the only responsible bidder, they can enter into negotiation almost immediately.
Right.
but
I mean, if anything comes back, then, we kind of go back to the evaluation stage, which could bring us, some months down the road, because then there's, all of the vetting, et cetera. But if they are, then that timing works for them. If they're not, who knows? I mean, clearly they want to be there. I just don't, because they've paid a lot of money to be there for 2 years in rent. So clearly they want to be there, and they've expressed interest. I think that they've been, kind of forthright throughout this whole process and requesting that they can come and make a presentation to us. So clearly they want to be there, which is good for us, the town. But at some point, I just don't want a situation, Joe, like you just described. And, of late, I've been having this bad feeling about this, that Madison is going to lose in the end because it took too long, and we were really off-putting to a very, good, generous potential opportunity. And then we're stuck, and we end up getting, 10 cents on the dollar, and or sitting on a vacant place that we now have cost to maintain.
as soon as you lose the competition between the two schools and one of them leaves, the value of the property is going to drop.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's the bird in hand.
Yeah, and
Right.
ideally, the board play, you have to play the game to keep everybody excited and interested
It's
to a
just,
point.
it,
It's tough.
it's the real estate game.
Yeah, and my point is, I just want to make sure we get our point across as a group. And, just be mindful of if any potential liability, if someone reads this incorrectly,
That's what I
especially if
I
we
like the way-
lose the bird in the hand.
like the way.
I mean,
Ford-
on my motion, I leave open the option to reevaluate after RFP. So, I'm not
But that's in there anyway.
totally clear on the hesitancy.
So the reevaluation after RFP is in there anyway.
Okay.
It's in there. It's in there beforehand.
Okay.
What your motion effectively does is adds us making a recommendation to sell to OLM and
Right.
then the RFP.
I just wish there was a way, some language we could add to point number 4 to sort of say, time is of the essence in making that decision to secure the value of the property.
Yeah, if this was a face-to-face meeting, we'd have a really good session, but the term time is of the essence are good quotes. I'm just trying to get group thinking here,
No, you're right.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out how to
Yeah.
work that in there.
I
think that's
usually
the
write
point.
things down and then look at it. And it'd be better if it was if we were all together, but we can't.
Right.
So unfortunately,
Right.
Jason's got the responsibility. He's got this in front of him. And I just would type down, like right now, I have time of the essence. I write it down here.
I mean, well, there's no reason why we can't include that.
I'm just trying to.
That's why we rushed it. I mean, that's why we got this RFP
It's cool.
wrapped.
Yeah, I know.
Because we,
Agreed.
So maybe just at the end of 4, town of Madison would be sale of property to such as a private school, with due consideration to timing, leases, with due consideration to timing and lease expirations. Don't
Is that-
quote me, but I'm just saying, because I'm trying to get to the timing component, because you don't want to lose that. Because as soon as one of these users drops out, the value of the property drops to everyone.
I wonder if it would make
So-
sense to flip the order of the wording, which is basically our recommendation is to make a decision by X date. And that X date assumes that we'll have the RFPs reviewed by them, but if not, then it's to make a decision by X date. So either we have RFPs for other options or we go with OLM. But I haven't really heard that OLM is the preference, other than the fact that it's a bird in hand, we want to make this decision quickly. So to me, I'm hearing the recommendation is we just want to make a decision quickly so that we don't lose on interested parties. That's how I'm kind of interpreting some of this dialogue.
So
Well, I don't think we want to
Just
make. I mean, we
for
want
a
the
point
town
of
to-
order, I had a motion that was second. We had discussion. We didn't vote on it. Is there, we can vote on it.
Vote on
And
it.
if it doesn't pass, we
Okay,
can
well,
talk
well-
about amending it. But there's a motion out there that hasn't been voted.
So any further discussion? So I'd like to call a vote.
Okay.
Just
All
for
in
clarity,
favor? What?
For clarity, it's in favor of specifically recommending OLM as a person.
Correct.
So basically, just to reiterate, based on the information we have today, we would recommend OLM as a potential purchaser, sending it out for RFP. If we're brought back into the process after RFP and that there's a change at that point after reevaluation and a recommendation, then we can do that. But for right now, based on timing and the information we have and no other interested buyers who have represented what they've represented, that's my motion, that's our recommendation. It's a recommendation. I left the motion open so that it can be amended if information comes in at a later date that this one wants it and it's going to be, financially feasible and not risky, or this one wants it, or this one wants it. It can be amended. That's part of the motion. So for clarity, that's my motion.
Okay, I'm going to step in here as a selectman and prepare you for a question you would get if this wording was presented to us next week. I think we would ask the question is, how does this committee know that this is the most immediately available of the options? We haven't gone out and asked anybody yet to submit a proposal. So how do we know that this is the most immediately available option?
Because it is
Because
today. That's
They
what-
came and represented it to our committee. That's how we know, because they're the only ones who came and represented that that's what they want to do. And if
But
they
we
did
haven't-
purchase it, they would do it.
We haven't
So for right
officially
now,
asked
that's the
anybody.
only option.
We haven't officially asked anybody to come to present to us. There may be a developer sitting out there just waiting for this RFP process.
Right.
don't
That's
yet
why my
know.
motion was it could be amended after RFP. For right now, this is our recommendation because this is our charge to make a recommendation. So this is it based on the information we have. No one else has come forward, but they might in an RFP. So part of the motion is we're leaving it open for reevaluation based on what we're presented with after RFP.
We haven't asked anybody to come forward yet. That's
Al,
the
I would-
purpose of the RFP process.
You're right, Al. I
Yeah,
agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you what you're saying. The RFP is in fact soliciting it to get to do your diligence for the people of the town. But if you were to say, where is the information coming from? One, is they're an existing tenant. Two, they attended a meeting and expressed interest. And three, is personal experience with selling real estate, buying and selling real estate. You have a tenant in there willing to buy the space as is, where is, and they're a user that wants the building and sees value in the building. That user is going to always pay more than someone that has to knock down the building. So the only other piece I would add to that is a personal experience, that they should be willing to pay more than everyone else. That said, I think you still need to do the RFP to validate that.
Yeah, we always knew we had to do the RFP. We just,
Right.
the Board of Selectmen wanted to take that charge over. So we're saying, if you want to do it and put us on hiatus, we're telling you, this is what we know today.
Right. I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at. And Joe, I actually agree with you, especially because it's a school where parents have to know for next September and make decisions by, March and the spring for next year if they're not going to be there. There's a lot more incentive, honestly, I think, for them to pay maybe more because they're already set up and it's a school. So they have to be able to tell parents of their kids, and there's, wait lists, yes, we're going to be here so you can keep on enrolling or whatever. So I think you're probably, and that's just, again,
What are the
personal
words-
experience as well, but I think you're right.
Words that we're going to vote on. I will type them so we can all see them.
Right. And Al, just in closing, most of this discussion is based on, it looks like the Board of Selectmen is taking over and we're going on hiatus for a period of time. So this is our message today.
Yeah, I think we're trying to drive some points home here.
Yeah,
In case we get left out of the process, quite honestly, Al.
yeah. I mean,
That's how I understood it. We were going to take a break now,
RFP is the
right?
next step. But we're saying that this group could potentially break up.
We're just getting going.
So if we get a vote on the motion and see where we're at, we can put the language in.
Ready to type.
I see a blank page.
Right, I'm waiting for
Barbara's
work.
asking us to vote on her motion.
Yes, which is? Oh.
Right, I made the motion, we had a second, we're waiting for the vote.
So could you just recap in one sentence?
Well, I think to help with Barbara's on the phone.
Okay.
And what I may suggest is because we went through discussion, and I'm just getting to parliamentary procedure. Jason, and again, this is the disadvantage of Zoom. Jason has what he's written in front of him. If he could read it, maybe we can amend the motion to adjust the motion
Great.
to what we have today.
Well, why don't, okay, I don't know. We never took a vote on my motion. If it doesn't pass and we want to discuss, changing the motion, I guess, I'm happy to do that. What was the concern? The not putting in actual OLM, the current tenant, just putting in, sell it to a school, a private school?
I think most people would, I would agree to using the word private school. I don't see, I won't vote for using OLM explicitly in this document. The committee may be different, but I can't see where it gives us any benefit listing a particular tenant.
I'm in agreement with Graham.
I agree with that as well.
So you just want to amend the motion just to say sell it to a private school with the indication that the current tenant has expressed interest.
Bingo, freeze that language. Does everybody agree on it?
I do.
Yeah, I'm
I do
fine.
as well.
Okay, Jason, I
So I'm
can't.
fine with that. Yep.
So it's to keep
Jason, I
this.
can't, my eyes are bad.
Hold on. So it's to keep this, it's to keep item 4 with a note in the footer, let's call it a footnote, with a footnote that says the current tenant presented to this committee and has expressed desire to purchase the property as soon as possible.
Great.
Yes?
Yeah,
That's a
Or-
statement. Yeah.
I like that actually, because it makes the point that time is of the essence that we were trying to get at as well to the Board of
Let
Selectmen
me
as
do
our
this.
recommendation.
Right, yeah.
Anybody remember how to footnote here, or should I just?
Oh, shit. Yeah,
I haven't footnoted
Can't see
in Word
anything.
and-
Go to insert.
Oh, here we go. Insert footnote. There we go.
yeah. There you go. Barbara, he's typing a
As-
footnote.
Come to our,
Has come to our committee.
as
And express
Presented.
interest in purchasing the property as soon as possible.
that they have interest in purchasing the property as soon as possible.
And I will also say it is likely that someone who finds value in the building is likely to pay the most. I mean, that's the key there.
It feels more like opinion though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the footnote is a statement of fact, no question.
Yes.
So right now we have, so I'd like to amend, Barbara, can I amend Barbara's motion before we vote on it? Or does
I'll
Barbara?
amend it.
Great.
Yeah.
So I would like to
I'll amend it.
I would like to amend your motion, or I'd like you to amend your motion to just be the acceptance of point 4 and footnote.
Okay, if only I could see point 4.
So what point 4 says is the most immediately available of the options considered with the lowest risk available to the town of Madison would be sale of the property to a user such as a private school with due consideration to timing and lease expiration. Footnote, the current tenant has presented to our committee that they have interest in purchasing the property as soon as possible.
And is that under our
Recommendation,
title of recommendations?
correct.
Yes, okay, yep. I'm fine with that amendment to the motion.
So I'd like to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any further discussion? Aye, aye.
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 Unanimous? Can we have a unanimous?
Yeah, I'm. If Barbara, because I second it, if Barbara agrees, then I agree.
Okay,
So I believe that was anyone opposed? So that's unanimous. Make sure you get that in the minutes, Rich.
Well done,
Thank
group.
you. Yeah. We'll go. Jason, can I have a Microsoft Word version of this?
Yeah, when I'm, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
thank you.
I will drop it back. I will drag and drop
Okay.
onto the drive
Thanks.
where I pulled it off of.
Yeah, thanks.
Good, healthy discussion.
Yes. Do we want to vote on all the recommendations? I mean, we voted on 4, but
Yeah,
we probably should vote on all the recommendations.
Right. Well, I was going to motion to vote on all of them instead of doing them piecemeal.
They'll go into the minutes and I'll send those minutes out for review. And that's another time so everybody can see it in front of them.
Thank you. That would be great.
You know, because I don't want to drop the ball on this. So I'll copy paste into Microsoft Word, send it out as draft. And then I will push everybody for comments.
And so 1 through 3 are the RFP.
So my issue with the language is 1 through 3 don't really come across as recommendations, even though they're stating facts.
Well, sorry, this is what happened. Hold on.
Okay, thank you. Then now I feel better.
there you go.
The word conclusions here, but I
Okay.
didn't have them. as that.
Are we gonna vote on these? Guys, my apologies, but I do have a hard stop at 7:30.
I would like to propose that we adopt section 1.2 conclusions and recommendations as written here right now. As our conclusions and recommendations.
Right? Could
So
you-
I know what 4 says because you just read it to me. Is it possible to just read 1 through 3?
Yeah.
And there's 5 and 6.
1.2
Okay.
conclusions and recommendations. The committee has reached the following conclusions and makes recommendations. The fate of the Island Avenue School building and land is important to the residents of the town as the response to the survey was considered above average. 2, the land can support a new septic system that can service up to 25 multi-family dwellings or 6 single-family dwellings. 3, town council is resolving the deed restriction. Resolution of the deed restrictions is not within the scope of this committee's work. 4, the most immediately available of the options considered with the lowest risk available to the town of Madison would be sale of the property to a user such as a private school with due consideration to timing and lease expiration. Footnote 1, the current tenant has presented to our committee that they have interest in purchasing the property as soon as possible. 5, concurrently, the town of Madison should proceed with a public request for proposal, RFP, to those who would wish to develop the property for the limited uses of 1, repurposing for a private educational institution, 2, development of a single-family housing development, and 3, development of a multifamily housing development. Number 6, upon receipt of proposals, the town of Madison should engage this committee for guidance in the evaluation of the proposals.
Okay.
Well done, Jason.
Good. Yep.
Good job, everybody.
Great.
All right. So I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Aye. No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 The 1.2 is currently frozen in this state. And then this is literally, so section 2 deals with the official charge, which is literally, I copied and pasted our charge and our, the membership of the committee. I did leave Phil Chamberlain in there, but I gave him an asterisk that said that he attended 2 meetings and then resigned from the committee without replacement. 2.2, description of meetings. I talk about the number of times that we met. I talk about the fact that most of our meetings were virtual due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Talk about the fact that we did nothing from March 10th through May 19th. Talk about the fact that the meetings were sparsely attended by the public. Talk about the fact that we made 2 presentations to the Board of Selectmen. I talk about our initial plan, how COVID-19 kind of through our initial plan of having public input sessions similar to the Tri-Board Commission. Actually, I say our initial plan was to have a number of public input workshops similar to the Tri-Board School Facilities Working Group to gather public input. And unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we were unable to hold these public input sessions. I said in lieu of public input sessions and in consideration of the sparsely attended meetings, it was decided to issue an open-ended, non-statistically significant public survey to gauge the town residents' desires for the Island Avenue property. And then I talk about the public information session that we had that we had great attendance on. And then talk about the 4 ways that we looked for comment input from the public. And then I talk about our 2 additional unofficial committee members, Alan Lauren, being at the meetings. And then I talk about, how quickly how we came to our conclusion. And then I provide the top 4 options, which are sell the property to Our Lady of Mercy Preparatory School, sell the property for multifamily, sell the property for single family, or lease it to OLM. And then I provide the decision matrix.
Excellent.
That's it.
So I know Joe's got to do a hard stop. So, Joe, so
Do we want to vote to approve this in principle? And then Graham can edit it as he sees necessary, with the exception of 1.2.
I make a motion to vote to approve this in principle, and Graham can make changes accordingly.
all in favor? Do we have a second?
Obviously non-substantive changes,
Yeah.
Right.
excluding the section where we already voted.
Non-substantive changes.
Right.
Right. Yep.
The only question I have is on 3.2. Do you want to put a footnote saying subject to change based upon RFP information?
Yep.
Subject to change based upon information obtained from the RFP?
And what are you referring to? Sorry, Joe, because I don't have it in front of me.
I'm putting a disclaimer in on the table saying that it's subject to change.
Section 3.2 is our decisions of sell the property, develop the property, multifamily, single family, and lease the property. Our top 4 decisions based upon what we know. So I just said, do you want to just
Well,
ask?
can I put validation of decision-making model or something like that? That sounds cool.
Subject to, I would say information obtained from an RFP. Subject to any information obtained from an RFP. And that just jives with the rest of the document.
Good. So that's right here,
Okay.
Joe. You see it?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
And I'll keep my mouth shut now.
Motion stands. Seconded.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? So Joe, if you just got to step away, so so the prep for the January 12th meeting. So I sent out a draft PowerPoint. I put a placeholder for the recommendations. I'll cut and paste 1.2 into our recommendations, just so they're 100% consistent. And just go over the schedule and I'll just mention the draft RFP. And then the financial models. I'm not going into the details of any of the assumptions. I'm just putting the parameters. So Peggy had some questions about some of the parameters, which I responded to from Joe. So if anyone has any comments, let me know, but I don't think there's anything particularly controversial here. And that'll conclude our meeting on the 12th.
The only other thing for Lauren's sake is I look at the schedule and it looks like either this is it for the committee or mid-June is the next meeting.
So I guess we'll have to cancel the meeting. I think we have a schedule. Do we publish a schedule officially? Meeting every 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'm just kind of speaking for Lauren.
Yeah.
Just kind of housekeeping, keeping track, but I think we should be either canceling the meetings or,
Did you actually publish a schedule at your last meeting for 2021?
no, we never did. That's why I mean, and that's why I left it as a topic here. I don't think we're having meetings. I think this is it.
You have nothing else scheduled. They can't be scheduled more than 12 months in advance. So your prior schedule of every 2 weeks technically expired December 31st.
So Graham, are we done?
I guess we are until we're recharged. Well, we'll have one last go around on the 12th. And then maybe when we discuss the recommendation for the being involved, I'm sure that'll be discussed at that point. So everyone has the meeting on the 12th on their calendar?
I don't.
Yes.
It's
No, so-
8 a.m. Yeah,
8 a.m. Okay.
yeah, it's an early morning meeting, Tuesday the 12th, 8 a.m.
Is it Zoom or what is it?
It's a Zoom.
Yeah, it's not on my calendar, but it's not that important.
Lauren, can you send us invites?
I'm sending the link right now.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, it's good working with everybody.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So we'll see you next week on the 12th at 8 a.m. And motion to adjourn?
Seconded? Anyone want to second?
Hold on.
7:34.
Grant, so if we have comments on your slides, should we forward them to you?
Yeah, if you've got any comments, send them along, yep.
Alright.
And send me a Word document of your 1.2, like, cut and
I just
paste
sent
it.
it out.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Nice job.
Okay.
Okay.
So nice job,
Okay.
everybody. We'll see you on the 12th, and
Happy New Year.
let's hope for the RFPs. Let's keep feet on the fire to get the selectmen issue the RFP quickly.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks,
Sure.
everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
See you
you.
next week.
Happy
Yeah.
New Year.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.